Hi everyone, this is Hiba from My Little Journal, and today I'm going to be working in my daily journal. I am setting up the month of September, and if you're not familiar with my daily journal, I do have a playlist if you want to check it out. I've been sharing my setup videos since January, so I'll try to remember to add that up at the eye for you guys. But anyways, as always, I'm using this beautiful alpha stamp from Studio Calico. It's the Tucker Alpha. It is my favorite to use for my title pages for each month. I'm just going to use it to stamp out September. Now, in the past 2 months, I've been theming up my spreads a little bit, but I decided to not do that this month and just use either florals or like plants or something. So I just decided to keep it simple this month, especially that it's September and there's not much going on. So what I decided to do was use Everyday Explorer's hand-drawn leaf stamp. This is so beautiful. I forgot the name of it, but I will add it in the description box for you. So I'm going to use that to add leaves like coming out of my September. I do use a white piece of paper just to help me mask off some of the letters. That way the leaves look like they're coming out of the letters, if that makes sense. And I just love that look, and I love the simplicity of it. Now, to bring in a pop of color, I'm actually going to use from that stamp set, there's just like a cluster of dots. I'm going to use that in a very pretty peach color to stamp around September. And then I'm going to grab a few words from the stamp set to stamp around September. I think I end up stamping like details and memories and things like that. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to grab my acrylograph pens from Archer and Olive and fill out some of these leaves. I'm just going to go with like very mild colors, like dark greens, beautiful blues, things like that, just to add a pop of color to my leaves. I also always add a border to my title. I just think it looks beautiful and it grounds everything, if that makes sense. I'll also use some washi tape just to add a little pop of color and a little something to the corners. And this is where I'll grab my pencil case and color in some of the leaves. By the way, I get asked about this pencil case all the time. I have 2 of them. I got them from an Etsy shop. I will add the link in the description box for you guys, but they make beautiful pencil cases, purses, wallets, all that good stuff. And I think they are located in Greece, but it's gorgeous. And I love these pencil cases because they fit all my pens and pencils. And this is not sponsored. I bought this with my own money, but I wanted to share with you guys a small company if you're interested in large pencil cases. But anyways, I am done with my title page. I can move on to setting up my week layout. So while I have my week stamp out, I'm going to go ahead and stamp it on every single week. So I believe there's 4 weeks in September, if I'm not mistaken. I will go ahead and stamp those out. And then I'm going to grab my Everyday Explorers Calendar Day stamp set to stamp out the numbers for each week. I like to do this. It's really helpful with my projects, like my project life and my traveler's notebook. It really helps me go back and see what I wrote, what we did that day, what we did that week. So that's why I tend to stamp out like the week 34 and week 35. It just makes more sense to me. But anyways, once I'm done stamping the numbers, I can start with week 35. So for week 35, well, before I mention week 35, I kind of plan out my spreads. They do tend to change, and I'm okay with that, but I like having the lines set up and everything just to kind of give me an idea of what I'm doing, basically. But anyways, we can start with week 35. I decided I want to use this very old stamp set that I have. It's kind of Friends themed, the show Friends, and I rarely get to use it. So I thought to myself, I'm going to use it. I'm going to use this like corner here to stamp all the things. I start with the couch stamp, and then I'm going to build off of that. The stamp set has like the guitar, Phoebe's guitar, the lobster, the peephole from Monica's apartment, just little things like that. And I was really excited to kind of create this little cluster in the corner and make this more of a Friends themed. Now, as you guys know, I'm not really big on themes. I know I say this all the time. So it's really not gonna look like the show Friends, but I'm just gonna bring in hints like purples and yellows and things like that that kind of represent the show. So because I wanted to focus more on the purple from Monica's apartment, I decided I'm gonna use labels this time around as instead of me stamping out my labels. Now I have plenty of labels and this is a great way to use them. So I decided to go with these Studio Calico labels. They're nice and thin, they're not gonna bulk up my journal, and I'm gonna add them to each day. And then I'm gonna grab, I believe it's my Feature Craft dated stamp, I think that's what it's called, to fill out the days of the week. Again, this is a great way to use your labels, and I actually really like the idea that I end up doing it again on a different spread where I use some of my labels. But I think like the days of the week stamp was a tiny bit bigger than my labels, but that doesn't bother me. I'm okay with that. I just think I wanted that pop of color and not to have to stamp every single label out myself. I'll also use my Everyday Explorers Calendar Day stamp set, stamp out the numbers. I love the stamp set. It's just perfect. It's a great size. And this time around, I stamped them in that purple, again, to bring in more purple to the spread. Going back to my acrylograph pens, I'm going to fill out some of these stamped images. I think I start with the couch, I'll fill out the peephole, just little things like that. I don't fill out every single one. Do this because I want a pop of color, but I don't want to overwhelm my spread with color, if that makes sense. Now I'm almost done with my spread. I'm just adding the lines, and I believe I grabbed some black washi tape and add a few pieces here and there. And then I call week 35 done. I try to keep this as simple as possible. Oh, and I did add a like drop shadow as well to my boxes. But again, I try to keep my layouts as simple as possible because I will be adding stickers and I'll draw things. I'll even add photos sometimes in all my journaling. So I really need that space, and I don't want to overdo it when I first set up my spreads. I just think, you know, adding later as I go makes more sense. Let's move on to week 36. I am going to be using this beautiful stamp from Studio Calico. It's hand-drawn plants. I don't know what's going on with me. I'm just really loving the plant theme and the hand-drawn stuff. So I'm gonna stamp a few right above my boxes. So I went very vertical this month or this week. Just wanna try it out. I wanna see if I like it. I've been really enjoying the vertical boxes, but kind of spread out on two spreads, if that makes sense. This is more vertical, longer boxes. So I'm gonna try this out. I think I'm gonna like it. And if I don't, it's okay. It's just 1 week. So anyways, I'm going back and forth between colors, trying to bring in a pop of color. And once I stamp the plants in green, it's all gonna look oh so beautiful. I really actually love how this like spread turned out. It was so simple. I used one stamp and it brought in a lot of color. As you can see, once I start stamping the plants in green, it just looks so good and it kind of completes the spread. Now, I did want to mention, I had a lot of people ask me, doesn't this take a lot of time, like stamping and inking and all that? And honestly, I don't think so. I think this is not elaborate. I'm not going all out. It's very simple spreads. And everything's already done for me. All I'm doing is just inking up my stamps, using my stamps, and creating something fun and beautiful. This just especially works for people who don't draw. I love watching bullet journalers, and I think them You know, their setup is gorgeous, but I'm sure it takes much longer than what I am doing. But anyways, let's get back to my spread. I am adding the days of the week. I'm just using this Everyday Explorer stamp set to add Monday through Sunday. And then I'm gonna grab a very old stamp set. If I find it, I will link it in the description box, but it's one of my favorites. It just has the days of the week in different fonts and numbers in different fonts. So I'm gonna use it to add the numbers to each day. They are small, they're perfect. So I go ahead and do that. And then I believe I'm just gonna grab my ruler and pen and add the lines to my boxes. So I'm almost done with my spread. It really doesn't need anything else but a drop shadow. I actually go with black, and I actually really like it with black. I feel like everything popped and looked complete basically. Once I'm done with that, we can move to week 37. And I did want to apologize for my flying hair. It's just sticking out. I guess it was sticking out of my head and it's really annoying, and it's in like every single shot in my video. So I apologize about that. But anyways, this is where I decide I'm gonna use my labels again. This time around, I use some black labels. I tend not to use black labels as much because I hate white gel pens. They don't work for me. I don't know how bullet journalers get them to write so nicely and smoothly, but I decide that I'm not gonna use a gel pen. I'll probably end up using some white ink, and I'll share how I did that with you guys in a bit. But before I add the days of the week in my labels, I decided to use this beautiful leaf stamp. I'm gonna say this leaf stamp is probably an old Kelly Purkey one, and I really love it. It's one of my favorites, so I'm gonna use that just to add a pop of color to my spread. So I start grabbing some different colored ink pads to add the filler stamps in the leaves. I'll even go back and forth from black to colored ink, all that good stuff, just trying to get it to where I want it to be. I don't want it to be too busy, but I also want the leaves to pop off my spread, especially when I add my journaling throughout the week. But once I finish filling these out, I will start stamping in the days of the week. Okay, I promise I'm almost done. I did edit out a lot of this because honestly, I don't want to bore you with me stamping and going back and forth from, ink pad to ink pad. But anyways, once I'm done filling out my stamps, I'm gonna add the dates and the days of the week. So I go with some white ink. I like the white Brilliance ink. I just feel like you can stamp it once and it works. And literally that's what I did. I stamped it once, it worked, it looked great. I don't know if it's gonna fade or not, once it seeps into the label. If it does, I will try to go over it with my white gel pen, but I think for now it worked out perfectly. Okay, so I thought I was done, but I wasn't because I remembered I have this beautiful stamp set from Kelly Purkey. This is a very old stamp set. It had mushrooms and I thought they worked perfectly, so I end up stamping them a couple of times on my spread. I'll also stamp the bottom half of this one in black ink and then the top half in this really beautiful pinkish red, just to add a little something to my spread and kind of break down all the leaves. I also will grab my ruler and pen and add lines to each day and to each box. At this point, I'm thinking, wouldn't it look cool if I colored in outside of my border? So I grabbed my Posca pen in black and I start coloring it in, and I really, really like how it looks. I've tried this before and really enjoyed it, so I thought it would look really neat against the colorful leaves. So I started, but I'm not going to finish it on camera. I will share like still photos at the end of the video when it's done, but I didn't want to waste your time and mine and recording time. So that's what I'm going to end up doing for week 37. I can move on now to week 38, and I'm going to start with these beautiful circle alphas. They are so cute, and I thought it would be fun to just stamp like the first letters of each day in each box, and it was so much fun to do. I don't know why I don't use this stamp set as often. I even think it would look really cool like in a different ink color. I went with black because I didn't know what I was going to do for week 38, so I just went with black, but next time I'm going to spice it up and use a different ink pad. So I had this stamp set from Feed Your Craft, and it had little buildings and homes. I thought, you know what, I'm going to use this one. I'm going to just stamp it in a few of the boxes, and I can fill them out with my Tombow markers and my acrylograph pens from Archer & Olive, and just kind of bring in some color in a different way. I never used buildings and things like that on my spreads, but I thought it would be fun, and I actually really, really like how it turns out. I also grabbed my Everyday Explorers Calendar Day stamp set to add the numbers, and this is where I'm gonna finish this up by adding the lines for each box, and then I'll grab my pens and all that good stuff to fill out the houses to bring in a pop of color to my layout. So I started with filling out these buildings with my acrylograph pens, but I thought, you know what, my Tombows would do the job faster because, you know, they're a thicker brush. So I go with it. I grab my Tombows and fill out the buildings, and as you can see, it was much faster, especially after editing out a lot of it. But anyways, I'm going to finish up the spread by using my wonderful little floral stamp here. It is a favorite. I'm just going to add it here and there just to add a pop of something to the buildings. And then I call the spread done, and I can move on to week 39. So for week 39, I went back to this beautiful cloud stamp from Feed Your Craft. I've used it before in my journal, and I decided to do it again. But this time around, instead of masking it off and stamping the number in the center, like through going through my cloud, I'm going to use my label stickers. Again, I want to use these labels. They're a great way to add a pop of color and to save time. So I went with this beautiful kind of baby blue just to add a little something to my clouds. And then I'm going to grab my dated stamp set from Feed Your Craft. I believe that's what it's called. I can't even remember right now. But I thought it was the perfect stamp set to fit into the labels. And I'm going to add the days of the week. Again, some of them are much larger than the label. I'm okay with that. It does not bother me whatsoever. And I will also add the numbers for each day. So I'm done adding my numbers and my weeks and all that good stuff. I will add the lines to my boxes, and I did want to add a little color to my clouds. So I grabbed my gray Tombow marker, and I'm going to fill out the clouds with it. And I will go over certain spots where, just to give it some depth, a little bit of depth. I always say this, the Tombow is so easy to use. And to do something like this, it's like you don't have to be an artist, basically. But once I add my clouds, I decided maybe I should add some stars to the background. So I'm going to go through my stamp sets. I found a Studio Calico stamp set that's all about stars. It has stars in every kind of shape and look and everything. So I just loved it so much. I thought that was the perfect stamp to add to the background after I add my drop shadow. And I'm just gonna stamp it with some black ink, and then I'm gonna grab different shades of yellow ink to add color to my stars. And it turns out so cool, so pretty. I am so happy I went with stars for this. It just looked really neat. I also wanted to mention that you can just use a piece of paper to mask off your boxes. I know a lot of people use tape and masking tape. I find it to be pricey, and the piece of paper does the same thing, so might as well just use a piece of paper. And also, I don't like do anything elaborate, honestly. I can see people using the masking tape for card making and things like that, but something like this, you can just use a piece of paper. Okay, so I'm almost done with my spread, but I do go back to week 35 and add lines in my boxes. I end up grabbing a very light gray Tombow marker to add lines in my boxes. I just felt like that was a nice little touch at the end. And then I call my layouts done. Don't forget, I always have a 10% off code for Archer and Olive. It's always linked in the description box for you guys. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you guys very soon. Bye!